name's Colleen Foster. I'm with the City of Oceanside. I'm going to be starting off our presentation. It's Oceanside and Goodwill's partnership. Oceanside has the issues and Goodwill's going to have the solutions. So Beth will be coming up shortly after me. So the City of Oceanside in 2010 was one of the first cities in Southern California to pass a zero waste resolution. At that time, we had a 52% diversion rate. In 2012, we developed a zero waste strategic resource management plan. Today, we are at a 71% diversion rate. So today, my team, our industry, is faced with how do we get to that 75 to 90% goal? How do we deal with those difficult to recycle materials, along with the materials that we're not necessarily handling today? The material that I'm focusing on for this presentation is how are we handling items for potential reuse, textiles, and furniture materials. Gently used items, what we commonly refer to as bulky items in our service collection systems. Our zero waste plan identified this stream as a potential stream and revenue source for the City of Oceanside in the value of over $2 million. And we've been very fortunate with partnerships with our hauler waste management, as well as Goodwill, as well as many other partners within our community. So zero waste, reuse and rethink, because we need to look at the materials that we use and rethink the way in which they can be repurposed, repaired, or reused. So in order to do that in Oceanside, when we first started to really look at this issue, we wanted to create awareness. People were thinking that essentially bulk item collection was obviously going to be reused and repaired. But unfortunately, in Oceanside as well as in many other cities, it was going straight to disposal and landfill. So when we started to really tackle this issue, we realized that we needed to improve community awareness about these materials and encourage people to think reuse opportunities, think other types of retailers versus going to a big box store the minute you need to buy a nightstand. So we wanted to create reuse collaborative events, which improved awareness, and we brought in our stakeholders. And then eventually, over the past 2 years, we have been looking at our service routes to find a way to take that service route from disposal to actually relaunch that as a recovery route for reuse. So starting with reuse collaborative events, how do you get people excited about maybe what's considered an old piece of furniture or what's considered that couch or table? So a couple years ago, my team, we partnered with Goodwill as well as other local nonprofit reuse organizations and also animal rescue organizations to do a Donate First Day event. So in Oceanside, our services allow residents to put out to the curb up to 3 times a year, up to 5 items of gently used items for bulky item. We also have a spring and a fall cleanup. So that means you can clean your house up and put it out to the curb. And so we wanted to encourage residents before even thinking taking on that service, think donation first. So we developed some events. We partnered with our local schools and our schools' zero waste campaign, and we encouraged residents to think donation, come to a central location, come to our event, and donate it. And then those materials would get distributed throughout several different organizations that were on site. A lot of people could not transport their couch or could not transport their table or their dresser, so they were limited in being able to use this event resource. And a lot of people still don't realize, that this was a good thing for the environment. We also realized that maybe Donate First Day wasn't necessarily fun enough or sexy enough to get everyone else in our community. So one of the other ideas that we had come up with is our Earth Festival. Following in line with what San Diego Balboa Park's doing, we developed a recycled chic fashion show in our Earth Festival, as well as a vintage market. So where we're inviting the local retailers that specialize in vintage, that specialize in reuse, to be able to participate in our festival and to have a whole section in which people can shop. And that has become one of the most popular sections of our Earth Festival, which now serves the needs of North County. And then we wanted to get more people aware, more people involved. So who's not going to my zero waste workshops? Who's not going to my Donate First Day? They're my consumers. How am I reaching our consumers? And so that's where we developed our team, the Gift and Brew Tour. So back in the day, 9 years ago, I'd put on a little recycling workshop. I'd get maybe 5 or 10 people. When you put on a tour of local breweries and you invite your whole vintage reuse community to set up their shops in the breweries, you get sold out within 2 weeks. And so we rented a couple double-decker buses. We transported 200 people around to 5 different breweries in Oceanside. They tasted beer, they tasted farm-to-fork food, and they got to shop. And people loved it. After the 4-hour tour, people were talking about my diversion rate, talking about zero waste, talking about how we got to get rid of bulky item collection. That's terrible. Look at these beautiful items. We created this awareness, and that really helped create support with my city council, with my commission. Our utilities commission oversees the implementation of our zero waste plan. So they started to realize these events are popular. This is a good thing. It goes beyond just doing a newsletter or updating the website to improve recycling. It goes beyond just mandatory or commercial or residential recycling of bottles, cans, papers, and maybe backyard composting. It goes into, how do we build up our local retail market with the reuse initiative? So at the time, Goodwill stepped up to the plate and they said, we have so much more that we want to educate your community about. We want people to realize that putting that couch out to the curb for landfill disposal is not only avoiding opportunity for that couch to be repurposed or sold into a new item, it's avoiding jobs that could have been created. So one of the wonderful things about Goodwill is it's much more than a retail service. It is a program, it is an initiative that develops jobs and gives back to our community. So we held a commissioner tour of the full process of donations through Goodwill. But from the beginning of the tour to the end of the tour, I had our Utilities Commission strongly making the statement, and it eventually getting to our City Council, saying that we need to redefine our services to ensure these materials do not end up in our landfill. So with that, we developed a pilot program. So Waste Management and Goodwill and the City of Oceanside partnered together to tackle our bulky item service collection. Bulky item collection in Oceanside represents approximately 10,000 tons of material being landfilled annually. We took our collection vehicle routes that went to all the different houses that set up bulky item collection that week, and we had them drive through our Goodwill Center in Oceanside. And Goodwill staff were trained to pull certain materials out of the trucks that could have been recoverable. In 1 week alone, we had 60 to 70% were collected by Goodwill for reuse, repair, and repurposing. And I have to give a big shout out to Lori Summers with Waste Management, also Sarah Davis. The two of them stayed out there every day for that week to document and identify the materials that Goodwill was able to capture out of this stream and the materials that would go to disposal. There's several different partners involved. So you've got Waste Management as our hauler. They have a subcontractor, and those people have been picking up these materials knowing the materials go to landfill. So everything was getting destroyed. So day one, it was difficult to recover materials. As soon as Goodwill and those staff started to work together on how to better pack the truck, by day 7, the subcontractors that were hauling the bulky item were kind of having a competition and sense of pride to Goodwill. Look how I packed it. I preserved this wonderful dresser. I mean, these are materials that these people can't afford to buy. And so they were the ones that got it. And so that was one of the biggest myths when we were first looking at this program, is that there's no way we can do this. How do you do a collection route, and how do you make it efficient and timely, but how do you pack it in order to be picked through? And so that was a lesson that Goodwill and Waste Management really stepped up to the plate. And Waste Management and Goodwill and the city have been meeting to develop this into a service route. So what we've been doing is also working with Waste Management's customer service reps, make sure they're documenting what's being collected, make sure they're encouraging the person to donate first, helping the resident understand that these materials will be going towards repurposing so that they put the materials out in an appropriate manner. This is a service we hope to continue moving forward, and it's also a service that was outlined in our solid waste franchise agreement, which was negotiated during the development of our zero waste plan. So fortunately, our franchise agreement does require our hauler to manage these materials with the highest and best use possible. So if there's any other agencies that are in the process of redefining their contracts, it's really important to put this language in there. So thank you.